If I showed you a film and you reacted to it emotionally, it hit a chord with you, does it matter if it's created by AI or by a human?
I think, like, if you didn't know that it was AI, would it make a difference? I think, I don't know. Hello and welcome to the TA Tech Talk podcast, where technology meets conversation. And each week I've got our special guest, and it's no exception for this week's amazing guest. It's Anthony Davies from 1242.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Hi, Anthony. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm good, yeah. I mean, so full disclosure here, me and Anthony are pretty good friends. We share the same birthday. We go back
acquaintances.
Yeah, we go back a few years. And you've always worked within, video production, filming. But over the last year or so, you've created your own company. Maybe tell the wonderful audience a little bit about what you do, who you are, your history, just so we can kind of fill in the blanks.
Thank you, Nick. You're right. My company's now 1242 Studios. As you said, I've been sort of working in video production for 20 years or so, which is quite shocking.
Wow.
But I've done it in lots of different guises. But we work a lot in the technology sectors, education sectors. Go out into the world with our cameras, make short films for different clients like Microsoft, or we do things for universities. We do it for loads of different clients, quite diverse. I'm very lucky. I really enjoy my job.
And you're always super busy. Trying to tie you down to a day is like trying to, hold fire. You're just so difficult.
I think
so busy.
It's partly down because there's many parts to the job. Sometimes you're a producer in terms of you're organising stuff, you're arranging shoots. Other times we're actually out on the shoots. You've been with us on filming days. They can be quite intense. You're up early. You can be anywhere in the country, sometimes anywhere in the world. You're there shooting. And then there's all the post-production work as well, like in terms of the editing and all the different things we do in post-production.
What got you started in video production? Was it just you enjoyed films? We talk a lot about films and what TV programs. First thing we tend to talk about when we meet each other, what films you watched lately?
Yeah.
Is that what got you into all that kind of industry?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, the film I always cite as the sort of main influence was, I don't know, it's E.T. E.T. My son is named after Elliot from E.T.
All right.
And I remember it wasn't so much the film itself. I loved the film, but there's lots of films I loved back then. But I remember specifically, I must have been about year 5 or 6. I don't know how old that makes me, 9, 10.
Right.
I remember in the library at my school, I found a book that was the making of E.T.
Really?
And it was really quite surreal moment. I still can picture it now, because I remember thinking, oh, people make these things. You sort of, I don't know, it was almost on a sort of visceral level, I believed the film. I believed that Ghostbusters was real.
Yeah, that someone happened to be there.
Yeah, it's it was more of a documentary, but I knew on some level I knew it wasn't real. But it wasn't until then that I realised, oh my God, people actually do this. And I couldn't cite that was the moment where I was like, oh, I want to do that. But I'd always had, in sort of sync with that, I'd always liked art and music, and I sort of, originally, I think, going on into secondary school, I thought I wanted to be a photographer, and I studied photography. And it was during college that I sort of started dabbling in video production, and I just, fell in love, absolutely love it.
What's your first memories of the technology you would use? So we talk about all things tech on here, so we can't really go by without talking about what technology you initially used, and we'll come on to talk about how it's changed, but how archaic was it back, 20
archaic.
Years, back during the caveman time.
In the old days.
Back in the 50s, what was it like?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, actually, I was thinking when you said about this, I've been quite fortunate in a way to sort of see the evolution of within video production, the evolution of technology. And it's funny, a friend of mine, Rebecca, who we worked with lots over the years, she sent a picture the other day of a camera that's in, I think it's in a sort of BBC museum or something.
Right.
And it's the camera I used in 2006, 2005, so it's like a Sony Z1. But going back to university, I was using VHS cameras. We was still, VHS, DVDs weren't even around when I was doing video production. And, going back to earlier days, mid-90s, my first experience of editing was literally using 2 VCR players and, sort of lo-fi, recording one to the other. And I've felt very fortunate that I've had that process, really, because I think with that evolution comes an understanding.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's sort of you see, doing photography, we studied the techniques that they were doing at the end of the 19th century when photography first began. Do you know what I mean? So it's you're sort of understanding the processes, shutter speeds, apertures. And I really like that you sort of get that understanding and you have that sort of bedding to build upon.
It's funny because I watched quite a few music documentaries about, my favourite albums from the 70s, Pink Floyd, that kind of genre. And you hear the engineers talk about how hard it was just to do a simple loop. And then, what that makes me think is like how skilled these people are. So the kind of question that I'm thinking of is it easier now with the technology? And have people lost, you said you've got to be kind of more techie back then because you need to understand all the different kind of functions and features. Now it's all kind of levels are already automated for you. That, the aperture's fine, this, that, and the other. Is it easier now than it was?
100% it's easier. And I think, there's good and bad things to that. It's like I said, I think the danger is the understanding. It's a bit like my car. I don't know what you're like with cars, but like I can get in my car, I can drive it down the road. If something goes wrong, I'm not the kind of guy that pops the hood and knows, well, what's happening here? Do you know what I mean?
The tire.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't really have that understanding of how an engine. I've got a basic understanding, but I couldn't go in there with a spanner and a hammer and fix it. Do you know?
I'm sure many people go with a hammer in an engine.
Well, that's what I would do probably. But so it's like, I think there is. I say danger. It's probably the wrong word, but it's like, it's like I said, having that foundation of understanding how a camera operates and understanding the sort of processes, how a lens works. I think. I'm not saying it's important because that's the truth of it. Is it important these days? That's the question, really. You can. It's like my iPhone. I can sort of get it out of my pocket. I'm not worried about exposure.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about focus. I'm not even worried with these days about. I know you've seen we use gimbals with our cameras. Essentially stabilizing the cameras. I can follow my son. I can chase him
and get a decent.
Yeah, it's like the stabilization is built into the phone, and so. There's a danger that we start to take the things for granted, I think is the only thing. I think when I say danger, I think that's probably what I mean.
You and I have mentioned and joked about the TikTok videos that I produced in the past that, in 10 years ago, maybe they'd have taken all day to set up, film, edit, this, that, and the other. And it's such a quick industry now, and technology has become so kind of not throwaway, I wouldn't say, but it makes it easier for everybody to do it. And you and I have, you were going to teach me some things on editing, but then you said, well, it's so easy. Does that make you how does that sit with you that anyone can do what you do now? And that's not me being flippant towards, anyone could be film, but anyone can get a grip of it fairly easily, then they might not have been able to do. And how does that make you feel now? Do you think people, that's great, everyone can be involved?
Yeah, I've always been in them. To be honest, I'm a benefit of that. I am very aware that the job I do just wouldn't have been around, in the late 90s, video production or TV production or the film production we're talking about, it's really in the realms of big money, big companies. It's a lot of money to produce these videos. I was very lucky that through my career, just fortuitously, I've hit things, I sort of just was coming out of university, wanting to make videos, and then all of a sudden YouTube's launched in 2005. Without YouTube and social media, would there be the demand that there is for video production today? And with that demand, of course, and through the use of technology, of course, that's opened it up to lots of people. It's like, like you say, you're using, what do you use for editing? Like CapCut or?
I use Canva because I'm
Canva, yeah.
Really with that. And there's limitations to it, but it's certainly for someone like me who doesn't really have much experience in editing, I can just cut and paste pretty much and just chop and change. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, I think it's. Let me say you're right. Let me answer your question. So yeah, on one hand, I think it's amazing. I think it's brilliant, and I have, like I say, been. I've benefited from that same level of exposure to the different types of technology. Now, I think I mentioned to you recently. So my youngest son is 9, and for the last year we've been setting him up a YouTube channel. Yeah. He wants to be a footballer and a YouTuber, and so I've been doing it with him, and I think he's got a little bit frustrated. I'm always busy, I have been doing it with him at weekends and stuff, but he came home from school this is probably about a month ago, and he was like, my friends told me about CapCut, and I was like, okay, so we downloaded CapCut, and now with my sort of experience of using Premiere and editing softwares like Final Cut, I could get to grips with CapCut relatively easy. Man, in a week he's got to grips with CapCut. And so it's like, that's great. Do you know what I mean? It does open it up. And there's the audience for these things. I always used to say when I was studying at university and making videos, in the early 2000s, you'd make something, you'd still put the effort in, and you'd still put, all your love and attention into it. But once you had it on a VHS cassette or a DVD, show your mum, show your nan.
Yeah.
Who's really watching it? With YouTube and social medias, TikTok, Instagram, you can make something, and there's that motivation, that drive, I think, for people to create. I mean, it's like all the content you do. It's like, if you didn't have an audience, would you be as motivated to do it?
Yeah, it'd be difficult. It wouldn't be as...
Well, it'd be pointless in respect. That's what you're doing, I suppose. I mean, you're literally there to give information, aren't you? Yeah.
Have you found that because how easy it is, like you say, with learning CapCut, when you go to a client or a client approaches you for a job, do they think, oh, it's going to be really easy? Well, because I can film that kind of thing on my phone. I mean, have you seen any impact from the client side of things and their expectations with the technology and that and so forth?
I mean, there's two sides to filmmaking. I know you've been involved in different productions that we've worked on, and I think the challenge of filmmaking sometimes, the bit that people see with the cameras and the lights and the thing, they think that's the filmmaking, and it is, obviously, that is part of the filmmaking. But for me, sometimes the bigger challenge is the organization around that. The setup, the thinking behind it, the planning, even just
like today.
Yeah, it's just this today, isn't it? It's just like, people will see this, there's two people chatting in a room.
Yeah.
Oh, easy. But, we've had to sort out what day you're free. Here we go.
Oh, we had a right faff, just to let you know, we had a right faff just for the microphones, didn't we, today?
That's the truth. When people, I mean, like, when you aren't familiar with particular technology, it's like there is always that barrier. But I mean, that's just a learning curve, and that's true with any technology. But yeah, it's like there is still an expectation. The thing I have seen change, and I mean, I was one of these people, when I first started, I was just one guy and a camera. Do you know what I mean? That was literally how I operated from 2003 to about, at least the first few years. It was just me on my own, going round. And I was very lucky. I had support because I worked within I went to a college at that point. We were doing sort of corporate videos a lot in education. But then, it can go both ways. I've definitely seen the benefit of a bigger team, having people supporting you. But yeah, I've seen that also grow within businesses and universities and companies. It's like everyone, I always think it's odd how people were very quick to get people to come and manage social media, and I'm all surprised that more companies don't have their own video person these days. And they and it is happening, and they do exist, and and there is a lot of people working inside organizations doing video production, because like you said, I think one of the challenges of video production today is the turnaround. It's sort of like, sometimes things take time to organize, to go and shoot
and edit,
deliver,
pick music.
Yeah, exactly. Pick music. That's a good day's work there, isn't it? Yeah. As you saw a pie chart of that recently, it was like video production. It's like 95% choosing the right track, 5% editing, which is obviously a fallacy, but it is true. The right music is very important. Yeah. But yeah, it's like the turnaround time nowadays for social media. It's like, I don't know what your production time number is for your TikToks. It's like, I imagine you conceive an idea, shoot it, edit it, and release it. Do you do all that in one day?
What I tend to do, I'll have a kind of a bit of a brain dump. So I'll do 6 or 7 TikToks in a row on the camera, and then I'll go and edit it. So probably altogether, it'll take me half a day to do the 7 TikToks.
Yeah,
but it's quite quick to do 7 videos of TikToks. I mean, the 30-second content pieces, they're not, it's not a masterpiece, but it's certainly fast actioned, easily, pumped out half a day. But with you, I mean, your production levels, it's going to be a lot more, isn't it?
It's just more so sometimes the people involved. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think I've ever really been in my videos. Like, I've made a lot of videos in my life, but I've probably been in it here and there. I mean, you've been in more of my videos than I have.
Kind of you, yeah.
But no, it's very rare that I've actually been in it. But I can see the luxury of that. Do you know what I mean? That if it was just on me, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to shoot this morning. I'm going to do that this morning. But I don't know. I don't have your talent in front of the camera.
I'm not sure about that. One thing I wanted to talk about in a little bit is AI, because AI is kind of taken over a lot of everyone's life, not necessarily within your work, within my work. But one thing I wanted to ask you first is, scare you or excite you? When it comes to your job, I suppose, when it comes to the future of your industry.
Yeah.
And the way your business.
I mean, I would say excited. I mean, maybe pretty naively excited. I don't know. It's like I said, it's a challenge sometimes. Like I say, what is filmmaking? It's, it's the process of going out into the real world, capturing real people. That's kind of what we do. We also do motion graphics and stuff, which maybe, AI will play a part in. But yeah, it's like, I think we're a while away from an AI picking up a camera and going into film a documentary, for example.
Yeah, people are still needed.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, we're going to try and capture the real world. That's a lot of what we do. We go out and we film real things, real people.
Yeah.
I suppose the question is, why are we doing it? For the purpose of that, and will the stuff that AI is able to do replace that?
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, mostly I'd say I'm really really excited.
And so, give an example of how you're using AI. Do you use it now? What aspects of AI are you taking advantage of at the moment?
I suppose like the real world. It's like, I mean, we talk about AI. It's like, I mean, how long has like Siri and Alexa been around? And it's like, you know what I mean? People have just almost become accustomed to that.
Yeah.
There's certain features within software we use that have been sort of around for a while that kind of came along a little bit unannounced. It's like, I know Adobe do a lot of work integrating new AI tools, and it's even taken a bigger leap in this last year with like AI tools available in Photoshop, which we'll talk about in a second. But I mean, one of the biggest things I remember a few years ago is like when we suddenly realized that within, so we still use Premiere for editing, that you could automate subtitles. Actually press a button, transcribe the sequence. Like, I mean, remember when we used to do subtitles years ago? It's a big job.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, you'd employ people, wouldn't you? You'd be freelancers to do that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that was literally like, you sometimes, depending on the duration of the video, you're talking, an afternoon's work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still not perfect.
You've got to tweak it, don't you?
Yeah, it's still not perfect, and you still talk. It's not as easy. I think this is the misconception a lot with AI tools. It's sort of like there's a misconception that it's like, you're eating your bag of crisps.
Yeah. Well done.
It's not like that.
What I found with a lot of the AI stuff I've been kind of using is that it gives you a really good structure and the bones of something, like with ChatGTP and like with the subtitles, because there's the AI tool within TikTok app so that they'll also generate them. But the few times I forgot that exists and I've not edited it. So people do think that it's automated for you and send it out. But I think there is still a lot of work to do. It's not just sit back, like you said, and relax and AI sorted it for me. So I think that for me, it's still I still like it because I still feel like I need to be involved with that project rather than just let AI take care of it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that will evolve. It's like, I mean, most of the processes that we do use. So there's subtitling. I mean, there's things that AI has been able to do. I'm going to use the term AI, but there's things that have sort of made what we used to laugh about being impossible possible.
Yeah.
Things like, I mean, there's the big cliche, isn't it? When like in Hollywood films, like sometimes they go zoom in and enhance, and like we always think like, it's like you'd have like a
CCTV, great.
Yeah, it's like and we primarily we went from sort of DV power was like 720 by 576 pixels. Then HD came along, that was 1920 by 1080. Now we're at sort of standard 4K, which is great resolution, and you can with 4K there is more that flexibility. But the idea 10 years ago that you'd go like zoom in and enhance, boys, is like it just. But now to a degree, it is possible with things like Remini and softwares like that we have generally become part of our workflow. For a number of different reasons. But Remini and upscaling and and they've just built that into Adobe as well now, all these different tools that can sort of enhance, remove noise, things like that. But even things like audio mixing, but it's like now the ability, I mean, I told you recently about the Adobe podcast filter. I mean, sound is a big sort of challenge in video production. I mean, it was 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. Now it's like, I think technology has gotten a lot better. I think especially during COVID, I think, webcams, people's understanding of lighting, audio, it's all improved. But like now we have these tools that you can clean up audio from a sort of, just from a phone microphone and make it sound like it's recorded with a quality microphone in a studio. Or the ability to separate vocals from a music track, take an instrumental from a music track. That was not impossible.
Big job.
Yeah, or it would take a very skilled person with the right tools, the right software. Now, click of a button.
Yeah. I saw this TikTok the other day about, there was this voiceover lady she works in movies where, let's say they capture some audio and in post-production, the audio sounds, quite poor. Rather than get the actor back in to re-record, she'll do like an impression. She's just like an impressionist. But I think surely that's where AI will step in, because you've got these tools now where you can create. I keep having these again on TikTok where Freddie Mercury singing, Eminem, and AI has done Freddie Mercury in the style of Eminem. So what's to stop these film production companies just getting, audio of Heath Ledger's voice and just creating a character out of his voice? I know that it kind of has been done, but I think that so many jobs are going to be redundant, but at the same time, I think a lot of jobs will be created off the back of it. So it's a bit of an odd one, isn't it?
No, you're 100% right. I mean, I saw something even scarier than that the week. It was like an AI. I mean, you would think, a lot of these softwares, we probably talk about like the image-based stuff and the Midjourney type software, but like sticking with audio for a moment, it's like, I saw a test the other day where with just, I think it was 3 seconds of your voice, it could then go on to generate.
No way. 3 seconds.
3 seconds. You would think it would have to sit through. A lot of these sort of image-based ones currently, like, it's almost like data learning. It has to have sort of thousands of reference images, you know, to sort of create something new. This was 3 seconds of a voice. But you are right. I think, you know, I mean, we use a lot of voiceover artists in our work now. And it's like, I mean, I still think it's a while away from that. I mean, like, the voiceover automations I hear are very good, but I still wouldn't. I'd still prefer a real person right now.
Yeah.
It's not to say that we won't always be like that. I couldn't promise. Do you know what I mean? That we'll, because I'm sure eventually, but I don't know if it'll become a different world. I don't know if it's like a voiceover would almost like you're paying for their, like they will become the source. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Do you know, it's like they're like the inspiration for the AI voice, or so they're essentially get paid for doing nothing. I suppose it just depends. I suppose it just depends on, you know, who controls it, the companies, how people are reciprocated. Because we know generally when art meets industry, the industry wants to make the money, and all of a sudden the artists often get left by the wayside. So it's like, it'll be interesting to see how that develops. But the audio stuff is scary, really.
With that voice, where you just need 3 seconds, does it need a certain phrase? Because for some reason it's taking me back to, remember the film Face Off, when they're trying to capture his voice and they make him say, do you remember that line that they make him say?
I could eat a peach for hours.
Peach. And I always wondered, why is he making him say peach? I could eat a peach for hours. Because you're not covering each letter of the alphabet. Like, what's that phrase? Lazy, quick brown fox, whatever. Because it incorporates. So that 3 second thing, is it just literally, you can say what you want and it will capture it, or is there a phrase that you want?
They didn't specify. The video, in the context I was watching it, was actually talking about how, as much as we're talking about the application of it for creative purposes, for exciting purposes, and obviously with this stuff there's the danger. They were saying, actually, with that minimal a sample, what's stopping me ringing you and going, oh, hi, is that Mr. Benton?
Bank.
Yeah, bank. And then you say, oh no, sorry, you've got the wrong number. Is that then enough for me to take your voice and ring? And they were saying about how much, you know, all the banks, I don't know how your bank, like my telephone banking is automated by my voice. I have to say, I think this is my, I shouldn't say. It's about to give away my...
just take a soundbite of that now.
This is my... Well, I mean, it's literally just a phrase. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's...
I've never rang my bank, I don't think.
Have you not?
I don't think so.
But that's how we do it. But like, you know, now the technology is there to replicate people's voices. It's scary.
So what's the big, so up until now, what's the biggest change AI has made to your industry, would you say? What's the biggest thing you've thought, wow, that's really...
I mean, I think it's still to come. You know, if you want to move into it, it's like, I mean, I know I don't think I've been boring you, but you know,
no, not at all.
For the last year, every time I've come in, I've been showing you Midjourney.
Yeah, let's talk about Midjourney, because Midjourney, I'm still really new to that, and I've you know, is it on Discord?
Discord's just the platform.
Well, I've got an account, so I've done all that. I mean, I'm kind of exposing myself here. Discord, you should know what Discord is, but I don't really use that kind of stuff. But for the stuff that you show me, and the creative way you can make images and posters and all this kind of stuff, it's incredible. So let's talk about that.
The first time I heard about it was the announcement. It was called Darley. It was like a mixture of Salvador Dali and Wall-E.
Yeah, okay.
That was the inspiration.
Yeah, so creative.
All it is it's based on the simple premise of you enter text and it will create an image from that. So the very examples I remember when it was being announced was like a teddy bear in Times Square. And then you would literally just type that, a teddy bear in Times Square.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden generates. And you have what looked like a pretty photorealistic picture of a teddy bear in Times Square. And I remember that's probably the first time I've seen something that just made me go, oh my God.
Really?
Yeah, I was blown away. And I was just fascinated by, I mean, this is probably we're talking about a year and a half. It's like, I was blown away. And I didn't really even then think about how it would sort of the implications upon what I did or the future of the industry. But I mean, I know, you know, I signed up to be on the waiting list for Darley instantly. And then I started looking at like what other things there were. And then, it's over a year ago now, I signed up and got Midjourney.
Yeah.
And I remember showing you when I came in.
If
you think back there, this is what's scary about it. If you think back, it was probably over a year ago when I came in. I said, well, Nick. Tell me something.
Yeah.
And I think you said a lyric. It was a lyric from Eminem.
It was Eminem eating his mum's spaghetti.
Eminem eating mum's spaghetti, and we typed it in, and it was, again, wow, we were impressed. If I showed you, well, I have shown, the stuff it creates now. So that was, I think, version 2 of Midjourney.
Yeah.
We're now at version 5.
Right, okay.
Within a year.
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
Right.
It really is mind-blowing. And I see a lot of people, there's a lot of sort of people going, oh, AI art isn't impressive or it's not up to standard. But it's almost like, yeah, you can see errors sometimes.
Yeah.
And they've got over it had a finger issue at one point. It couldn't do hands very well. They seem to have sort of become sort of overcoming that. But I think it's actually scary, like in terms of how good it's got that quickly.
Well, I saw on the news there was a photographer, wasn't there?
Yes.
He entered it. He won, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I don't accept it. I just wanted to kind of test to see if it bought it." And it did. That's crazy, isn't it?
And I've seen the picture. It's weird because, like,
is it black and white?
Yeah, it's like a black and white picture. It's like is it like a mother and daughter, and she's like looking over the shoulder. I mean, again, lovely image. You could sort of see some artifacts in it that would give clues that it was AI generated. But it's a weird one. It's an interesting, I mean, it's almost a story that's too good to be true from, in terms of a story, it's like incredible, isn't it? It's like, it would have been just as good a story to say he entered it and came third.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like that it won goes to show you just the implications of that technology. But yeah, to your question, I mean, like I say, it started off as like a novelty thing. Like
that's what I was going to ask you. Is it still a novelty for you? Are you now incorporating it into your work?
I mean, yeah, it started being incorporated into work. I mean, the main thing we use it for is sort of like it's become a great tool for sort of pre-visualizing things. So it's like, for example, we're doing a project at the moment, and it's like the biggest barrier I've always had, is like, I know it sounds a bit ridiculous to say, but like I always see what I'm going to do in my head. Do you know what I mean? You picture like whether it's a short film I'm writing, a video we're doing, an animation that we're putting together, like almost without too much effort, I've seen it in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, there it is. And then
to verbalize it.
Yeah, to communicate that. And sometimes even to get it out of my head through my skills, what skills I do have. That's the sort of, it's almost like trying to channel it out and make it a reality.
Yeah.
That's the biggest challenge, is going from what's in your head to sort of realizing it. With Midjourney, what I found is we've been able to say, okay, to the client within like, an hour or two, go to them and go, this is what we hope it looks like.
Okay.
Here's an image.
Wow.
And what's happened more so than that is what I found, it sort of comes back the other way as well, because not only is it sort of helping us to communicate our ideas, sometimes Midjourney, through the way that it works, all these image generating softwares work, it will throw up something quite random, or it'll have something about the image. Maybe it's something in the background, the way it's lit, or I'll be like, that's a good idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it sort of informs back, which is scary. I keep saying scary and dangerous. I'm just using those words. Sort of.
I think I put it in your head, didn't I? About being scared of it.
Yeah, but I mean scary in a sort of wow kind of way. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like that. But we've even beyond that. I've even started using it. We're doing a project at the moment where it's sort of become the new. I mean, we've always used stock imagery, stock photography. With Midjourney, you can create the assets bespoke, completely unique.
Yeah.
So we've been using it. We're doing a short animation project at the moment, which is like we filmed things for it against green screen, and we filmed sort of stop motion elements. But for a lot of the background composites, for some of the sets, some of the props, all Midjourney.
Right.
And we're still at a point where the Midjourney and things like that, the resolution isn't great.
Yeah.
But you can use, again, like the software I mentioned before, like Remini and these upscaling softwares to just upscale it to 4K.
I think it's crazy.
Yeah.
What's the situation with ownership for that then? So let's say you use AI to create a logo for your company.
Yeah.
Who owns that then? Do you own it because you've created it, or does the internet own it? I mean, that sounds a bit broad, but who owns it?
It's a tricky one. I mean, there's big debate. I know there's already been lawsuits against Midjourney and I think Darley, but not against them specifically, but against the databases.
The way of pulling information.
Yeah. So it's like, let's take the teddy bear in Times Square as an example. That's an original image that Darley created.
Yeah.
A teddy bear in New York. But to create that, at some point, it's had to reference some picture of a teddy bear.
Yeah.
It's had to reference some picture of Times Square.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's referencing probably existing imagery, whether that's photography or, drawings or art. but it's an amalgamation of that. So I think the grey area with it is there probably is ethical issues around the ownership.
Yeah.
But if it's pulling from 1,000 sources, how do you attribute that?
How can you? It's a grey area, isn't it? I think there's going to be. I mean, it's still. For me, I was speaking to someone else on a podcast, Sam. A lot of the AI models and tools are still, for a lot of people, a novelty, aren't they? Just to play around with. But until they kind of iron out those kind of complexities, I still think people are just going to play with it for a while and see how far they get. Because Bing have just bought out their own, haven't they? It's very much like Midjourney. I forgot what it's called, but Bing, I think if you've got an Office account, you can sign up for this free image software. And it's the same kind of process. You type in, I think I was looking for something the other day, just to have interest, for a picture of something in the style of Hokusai, the Japanese artist. And it produced a fairly good image. It's very similar. So again, if I was asking for a piece of artwork, who owns that art? Do I own that art now because I've got it and printed it off?
Yeah, if I'm able to put in a specific artist's name or a director of photography's name or a photographer's name, and it creates something sort of akin to their imagery, then I feel like you're drifting into an area
of theft.
It's a bit like, do you remember the days of Napster when the days from Napster to like streaming that we have now? It felt like the Wild West back then, isn't it? It feels a little bit like that now.
The dark web almost.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like that with the sort of text-to-image based softwares. It's sort of like it's a free-for-all right now, and it's a race as well between these companies. I mean, the one thing I was going to mention to you, the next step of that is text-to-video.
Yeah,
which is where like video production becomes more under fire. And like I think it was only in the last couple of weeks that Google have Imagine text-to-video. Yeah. So the test I saw the other day was a dog with angel wings running through a field. And admittedly, again, very early days.
Yeah.
Your resolution is very low. I think it's like, I read somewhere it's almost like 3 frames per second.
Okay.
That will improve.
Yeah.
The resolution is like low, like 120, 240 pixels or something low.
Yeah.
But the potential.
They look good. Or potentially.
Yeah, it looked potentially good. But even since then, I mean, you can never tell how much is true or not. I saw someone post something the other day. It was almost like they recreated, The Great Gatsby, Baz Luhrmann. They'd almost recreated the look of that film.
Right. What, on using this?
Using Imagine. But it was. I didn't. It was literally on a social media feed, and I sort of, I thought, whoa. Yeah. But I mean, that for me is the big game changer.
Yeah.
I think when that comes in, that's going to have a huge impact on the way we do things. It'll have a huge impact on the way, and it comes back to your point before about the same with technology, cameras, editing software being available to the masses. I think the biggest barrier between people and filmmaking today is cost. It costs a lot to make a film. Even a short film will cost thousands of pounds. The kit costs thousands of pounds. Not everyone can do it. But I think something like TikTok or all of social media, back in the day, Vine, you can see how creative people are, how talented people are, and how sort of funny people are. You can go on TikTok feed and it's like, it's hilarious what some people come up with, and it's sort of like,
thank you.
Most people. But you think back to when we were kids, it was only comedians were on TV.
Yeah.
They went to Oxford, they went to Cambridge. Now I think people are more famous from TikTok than they perhaps are on TV if people are consuming TikTok. But I think now with tools like that, text to video, it will definitely give people the chance to express their creativity. And I think it's going to level the playing field between Hollywood and the average person. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how it happens. It's almost like the only person that's capable of doing that right now is James Cameron.
Yeah.
I mean, like, look at the money and teams and tools and skill it takes them to take something from his head and put it on the screen. It costs like $400 million to make Avatar 2, something like that. And perhaps in 2 or 3 years, James Cameron can just type in blue aliens with bow and arrow
in space,
fighting.
But
in water.
But in all seriousness, though, so you're saying that it's going to, in the short term, it's going to have a bigger impact on the kind of people like me, where I can create more and be more creative. But how will it impact people like in Hollywood? And how do you balance that within your industry of the human creative mind against a computer's creative mind? Where's the balance going to be?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I actually had this discussion with someone the other day. It's like, there's two sides. I mean, I'll talk with the sort of framing on film, but this could apply to art, photography, literature, anything sort of that people create. There's something, I mean, I think it's been studied, the coding and decoding of media. I'm driven by a passion to create something or want to create something. Obviously, an audience is amazing, it's great. We sometimes judge, how good's your video? How many views has it got?
Yeah.
It doesn't sometimes matter how good it is, it's how many views has it got. How much money did it make if it's in the cinema? What kind of audience figures is it putting on Netflix? That's the metrics by which we judge success on it. But as an author, I'm putting meaning into it, hopefully. There's something within it that I want to say.
Yeah.
That's put out into the world, and you as an audience react to it. You decode a message, It's like we were talking before about different films like The Shining or Road to Perdition. We were saying about, there's something in those narratives that play to something about being a parent or being a father. And it's The Shining is an example where I've seen multiple readings of The Shining. I don't know if you ever have, where people say it's about Stanley Kubrick's guilt over faking the moon landings. There's other people saying The Shining is about America's guilt over Native American genocide.
Really?
All these readings of it.
Yeah.
And they're all valid to a degree in the audience.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm mentioning all this is because within The Shining, for example, there's two authors, Stephen King, Stanley Kubrick in the film. And even they disagreed. Stephen King, but I don't know where the friction came from, but Stephen King wrote it. He didn't agree with Stanley Kubrick's visualization of it. But there's still two human authors in that. And then an audience is reacting to it.
Yeah.
If I showed you a film and you reacted to it emotionally, it hit a chord with you.
Mm-hmm.
Does it matter if it's created by AI or by a human?
I think no. I don't think it does. And I don't know whether it would be a case of, does it matter if you know? If you didn't know that it was AI, would it make a difference? Would you be, if you knew it was AI going into it? Would you think, well, I know it's not real. I know that there's. I don't know. I don't think it does matter, does it?
A song, for example.
Because a film's not real.
If I told you that Pink Floyd were an AI band and they'd never existed and everything you'd been listening to and interpreting meaning had either been generated randomly or just by luck,
I would definitely feel different about it.
Would you really?
I think so, yeah. I think I don't know. I think because I've got such a love for music and that kind of thing, to look at it and think of a person hasn't individually gone off in that way to craft that. It's taken time to, like I said at the beginning of this, we're about, back in the 70s when they had to loop music and it was real artistry to it and real industry there. So I don't know if I would feel differently about it. I don't know, because I think that is, in the future, younger kids, I don't like to sound like an old man, the kids in these days, but I think that's how music and films will be viewed. If you're having text to videos now, 20 years' time, where if it's Midjourney 5 within a year, I mean, what are they going to be looking at?
I think we'll always have human authors and we'll always have artists. I think the other thing that worries me, actually, it comes into a little bit of what you're asking, is do you ever worry that, because the way these work is it's almost like I say, there's a database of images, of text, like even ChatGPT, it's just, it's all based on prediction, essentially. That's what the way I was told the easiest way to think about it. It's almost the computer is predicting what will be next in the sentence, what will be the next pixel in the image, what will be the next note in the song. And it's almost that prediction that creates this illusion of creativity. But it's if that proceeds the way it's going, will we as humans stop being creative because the computer's doing it for us? It's I go two ways on this as an answer, because I think about it could almost be quite exciting, because the danger is where is the next artistic movement coming from? Where is the next musical trend coming from? Will that come from a human or will it come from AI? And the question is, are we as humans anyway just sort of I always think of it as like a blender. So like I said before, you're a big Quentin Tarantino fan. So I think he's probably a filmmaker of our generation that people would say unique voice.
Yeah.
He's obviously talented. But then if you break down his influences, a few pulp novels here, bit of Japanese cinema, a little bit of the Old West, mix it all up. He creates something unique. Now, AI could possibly do that.
Yeah.
if you said, take a little bit of this style of film, a little bit of that style of film.
Yeah.
And like I say, if I then presented that film to you and you loved it, because AI would probably use the tropes of cinema, the structures of films, the hero's journey. It probably wouldn't drift too far from what is mainstream to create something that seems unique and seems to have meaning, but is just randomly put together.
Does it have the heart?
Well, that's the question. I don't know. That fundamentally is the point.
Yeah.
It's about the emotion. I mean, that's what's always driven me. Even more corporate work that we do, it's always about emotion. It's about the story. It's about connecting, and that's what we're all after, isn't it? Connection. We're all after connecting. I mean, and I saw it in the other day. That's what social media was about. And it started with Friends Reunite,
to relate to people.
To connect with people. Now there's a whole dark side that came with that people probably didn't predict.
Yeah.
And it probably has caused as many problems as it sort of solved. And probably AI will be the same.
I think so too.
It's sort of yes, it's exciting. Yes, the potential is there, but there's probably unknown dangers that we're not even aware of. I mean, for example, I saw a thing recently that was okay, so what they've done is, say I showed you an image.
Yeah.
And you're looking, say it's just of a tree in a field.
Mm-hmm.
You look at that image and it scans the activity in your brain as you're looking at that image.
Yeah.
And take away the original image, and that's the input, your brain activity. What's the output image? A tree in a field. So that technology, again, it sounds very science fiction. It sounds very sort of, was it Philip K. Dick that wrote all the Blade Runner? It sounds like something he would write. A machine that can read your brain waves and create images. So what's the next step of that? Okay, well, now I can create images of your dreams, of your thoughts.
Wow, yeah.
So, I mean, it's like Black Mirror, isn't it? Well, it's very Black Mirror, yeah. And it's they'll probably, what's going to be the repercussions of that? It's you think about all the laws we have now around privacy and image protection. That all came about from the technological evolution of social media and cameras. That wasn't around 100 years ago. In the same way, there'll probably be some protection on your inner thoughts.
Yeah. Wow. Scary. Right, I'm going to finish off with some quick fire questions about tech, right?
Okay.
So you've not been prepared for this, so let's do this. So, First question, what bit of technology could you not live without?
It's also important. I mean, without being too broad, I would have to say a camera. There's always been something to me magical about the ability to capture the real world.
Yeah.
I mean, capture it in a little box, and the things that comes from that with composition and lighting and shadow and shade. There's something magical about that.
And your most underrated bit of technology that you think that people take that for granted, but it is
underrated technology. I mean, I think to a degree we're drifting into a stage where everything's so much underrated. We take everything for granted.
I thought of an answer for you as well, by the way.
Maybe I'm taking it for granted.
I think your most underrated bit of equipment is your trolley.
Oh, 100%. Well, but the thing is, it's not underrated because it's the thing we rave about the most.
I love it.
Yeah.
For years now, right? So a bit more of background is we've been on shoots where I just had to carry the equipment on our back for miles, just all day, and we've never bought a trolley.
Well, we were young. It wasn't until our backs and knees gave out that we buy a trolley. Now we love our trolley. It's with Steve and Chris that with us.
The problem with the trolley, you can't take it upstairs.
Well,
unless you carry it.
You can. It's we've carried it upstairs, but the tumbler we call it because it looks like the Batmobile from Dark Knight.
They're big fat wheels, haven't they?
Yeah. You ask Steve, turns on a dime.
Yeah, loves it.
It does have big chunky wheels.
All right, so final question. What are you excited about the future of technology? I know we've covered this probably in a roundabout way today, but in a nutshell, what are you excited about with the future of technology?
I'd probably have to go back to the potential of that Google Imagine. It's the ability to be able to type something and see that become a reality in front of your eyes is going to be revolutionary. I can't see how that's not going to change the way we make film and videos from, the level that we do it at with corporate and sort of music videos and things like that, all the way up to Hollywood. I think it's literally going to change. You've seen other advances come along. There's always been, back in the old times, it was the back projection, to fake out people driving in cars. Then we've had green screens, blue screens. more recently we've had the volume spaces where they're using big LED screens. I think what this will allow, I think there'll still be an element of a human performance for now. I do think that will still exist. But I think what will happen is, and there's been lots of demos of this where I could film you dancing in the office out here. I can input that video as an input, give it a text prompt and say, Fred Astaire dancing in black and white. And it will take the base image of you, the motion capture, the facial recognition, and tie all those clever things together and create Fred Astaire dancing. And I think that's going to revolutionise things, because I think it'll give you the ability to shoot things quite lo-fi, quite at a budget, not necessarily even with the actor or the performer that you want to be in the final thing.
Yeah.
And then you input that in as an input, you suggest what it will be, how it's lit, how it's going to look, and then the output is, a multi-million-pound looking film.
That's crazy. Imagine if Bowfinger was made now. Remember the film Bowfinger?
You know what's funny? I mentioned Bowfinger this morning.
No way.
Yeah, because Steve was... we do a lot of... I know we do it all the time. It's like, we say a film quote.
Yeah.
He said a film quote and I was like, Bowfinger?
Oh, really?
It turned out to be Kingpin.
Oh, right. Okay.
But it's crazy. I'm Bowfinger twice in one.
But don't they? Yeah, in Bowfinger, don't they? They're trying to make a film with Eddie Murphy, but
yes,
Eddie Murphy wouldn't be in the film. So yeah, AI could have solved all their problems, couldn't it?
Could have solved it for him.
Well, thank you for joining me, Andy. It's been enlightening and a pleasure to talk to you as always. Thank you again. I'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon, Nicholas.
Bye.
Bye-bye.